So of course, if I want to pose a question, and in case you can see this, you will be able to respond in the chat box. In case someone pointed at you, and of course shouted, "You're a thief," would you trust the crowd to actually decide your fate, to decide whether you're a thief or not? There is a good video I've watched about this on TikTok, but I couldn't bring this. It's a skit, but I couldn't bring the entire video because we really don't have time. But I know you guys can go and search about it. But I'll be waiting for your comments in the section. So we have a good picture here describing what happens. You are one person, you are alone, and the entire community, the entire crowd is against you. You are walking home, someone shout, "You are a thief." Maybe someone has already ongoing beef. People don't know what happened between you two. So within 2 minutes, 50 people are surrounded, as you can see in the picture, and nobody asks questions. Nobody knows the truth. Within minutes, they have killed you. And later, police discover that you are actually not a thief. Suppose yourself and ask, did justice happen? Okay, let's say they stole someone or they didn't. Did the real justice really happen? I'll be waiting for your answers in the comment section. But for us, we believe, as African Justice Media, that every individual, every accused person actually deserves due process. Because with due process, we can be able to know who did what and who didn't commit, instead of you going on taking the law in your hand. Now, what does mob justice actually mean? When we say mob justice, what do we really mean? Of course, it refers to the killing, beating, or other forms of violence that actually is inflicted on a person accused of committing an offense without trial or due process by a group of people acting collectively, as you saw in the picture that I displayed. Now, in Uganda alone, we have evidence that actually speaks for itself. Now, according to the Uganda Human Rights Commission 2024, mob justice continued to be one of the most recurring human rights concerns in Uganda. And it is because one of the reasons that when the researchers try to research, it's because there is delays in justice, in the delivery of justice in Uganda, and of course the loss of public trust. I'm glad that Council Ronald Katushabe mentioned about this, and I have seen him on the street trying to advocate for justice, delayed justice, because he has cases including his own family members who are still in who are still denied justice up to now for years. Now, the Uganda Police Crime Annual Report for 2023-2024, it tells us that 1,039 persons were killed in mob justice incidents. In 2023 compared to 2024, where 119 people were also killed. So that represents 22.4% of homicide cases in 2025. So you can see that every year we lose over 1,000 people in mob justice incidents. Now, if we look at the researchers of Afrobarometer, you find that only 37% of Ugandans somewhat or strongly trust the police, while 63% have little or no trust. What does that speak to you? So if you don't trust that the police will handle the case, this is going to happen again. And this is now real research, not just speculations. If you don't trust the police, only 37 trust them, trust the police, what will happen next? Meaning people will become the police themselves. And this is the case they have actually talked about. Rachel talked about it. I wouldn't want to really go so much into it, but the good thing you guys talked about it. But all in all, there is no due process that was done. But also we believe that if due process was carried out, this incident would have really stopped. So why does mob justice happen? I'm pretty sure that also council mentioned about this crime, fear, anger, no trust, crowd violence, and these are the key drivers. Delayed justice, weak institution, weak investigations. I see council always advocating going on the streets, trying to put up his placards about delayed justice, weak investigations, corruption and impunity, poverty and inequality. That's why at African Justice Media, when it comes to institutions and opportunity, we have two aspects, which is building institutions, that is justice and liberty institutions, and also when it comes to poverty and inequality, we want to solve that through opportunity. That's why our three pillars are justice, liberty, and opportunity. So what mob justice tells us about the government, I think they need to talk about this. So it actually reflects failures in key institutions of the government. Police response is low. We've seen that police can even take 2 hours without arriving. We've seen that investigations are poor quality, courts delay. I've worked as a high court assessor, and this case we started only one case in I think it was 2021, but we just finished it. So you can imagine, and the case had moved from Lukunjiri. They threatened people on the village. They took it to district level, from district level to regional level. The case had moved already like 10 years. So now if you add on these 5 years, those are 15. So you think these court delays, what will, by the time the case ends, most of the witnesses are even dead. So also have prosecution weaknesses, community trust, accountability gaps. All these are some of the aspects that tell us about the government. So when systems fail, citizens also lose faith. So the more we have mob justice, it is just an effect showing you that we don't have proper systems in the country. So what does liberty tell us? Liberty tell us, in the words of John Locke, one of the liberty advocates, or some of the founders and philosophers of liberty, that the purpose of government is to actually protect life, liberty, and property. So when citizens stop believing the state can do this, they substitute, of course, they substitute justice with violence, and they believe to them that is justice, and that is a crisis of liberty. So if people embezzle money and no one is touching them, that they will take the law in their hand, because they believe a state can no longer protect them anymore. So human respect, I know that Steve talked about human respect, and since we do not have time, I wouldn't go much into it, but briefly, we have the presumption of innocence. In Uganda, they have been trying to play around this right. Even the president himself trying to threaten to scrap the presumption of innocence, and also to give the right to bail. And of course, right now, if you see, there are so many people, it's not yet law, but practically they are actually following the words of the president. It's rare for political prisoners to get bail unless the president decides. Okay, so how do we look at the solutions? We should stop complaining. Let's look at the aspect of policy. Let's see how best can we get solutions as individuals and also as a country. We can, number one, strengthen investigations. We have to make sure, or to advocate, that the government equips the police with forensics and intelligence systems, and of course strengthen investigations. And number two, faster and fairer courts. Number three, community policing. Number four, legal awareness. We have a justice hunter here. I think they really have much work to do to educate the community, and also in partnership with the government, because there is, in our constitution of Uganda, there is Article 1 which says that the government will translate the constitution in all languages, but up to now it has never happened. So how will people understand the constitution? Not everyone speaks the English much as it's a national language, but there are those who didn't go to school. So we also need independent oversight, which can ensure accountability through independent bodies. That is, now we're talking about the think tanks like us, the media, which can be keen to come out and, carry out independent oversight. So the African Justice Media perspective. As African Justice Media, we actually believe in we believe that lasting justice requires, one, informed citizens. That's why Our motto is to inform, engage, and empower. Now, also accountable institutions. That's why we aim at building strong institutions. Evidence-based dialogue. That's why we organize dialogues to make sure that young people can be able to engage themselves in debate and dialogue, and also find out solutions that can make their voices heard in policy making. The respect of liberty, opportunity for all, and one of the key segment of African Justice Media is opportunity. That's why we will always have opportunity dialogues for specifically the young people. South African Justice Media, we inform, we engage, we empower for a just and a free Africa. Now, this is the call to action. Justice delivered by an angry crowd may satisfy emotion for a moment. Yes, that's true. But justice delivered through trusted institutions protects society for generations. So let us choose institutions. Let's strengthen our institutions. Let us choose justice. Let us choose humanity, of course. Thank you very much. In case you want to reach out for further engagement, for questions, that is my email. You can personally reach out to me. Thank you very much. In case you have any feedback, still I wait for you in the comment section. Asante sana.